prisoner had a strange habit. Whenever he had free time, he would deliberately inch closer to the guards, staring intently at the keys hanging from their belts. Back in his cell, he'd grab a pen and paper and carefully sketch them out. Even if he was off by just a millimeter, he'd erase and redraw until every detail was perfect. But that wasn't all. Every night at 3 in the morning, he would strike a match and study the keyhole of his cell door. Then he'd tear off a piece of white paper, press it against the lock, and make a rubbing of the shape. With a pencil, he'd trace the outline, then roll the paper into a tiny tube and slowly slide it into the keyhole. Using his pencil to press against the bottom, he scraped and rubbed over 20,000 times until he finally measured the exact depth of the lock. The problem, though, was what to use to make the key. That question haunted him. The next day in the showers, he told a fellow inmate about his plan, hoping for advice. After thinking it over, the cellmate came up with an idea, but it was risky. Still, the prisoner was desperate for freedom and decided to give it a shot. During their shift in the woodworking shop, he waited until no one was watching, then quietly grabbed a few sturdy strips of wood. He planned to hide them inside his thermos and smuggle them back to his cell. But just as he was about to leave, his nerves betrayed him. His uneasy expression caught the guard's eye. The guard picked up the thermos, poured out the water, and shook it hard. Strangely, nothing came out. Finding nothing suspicious, the guard finally waved him through. That small oversight would later cause the prison a huge headache. Back in his cell, the man eagerly pulled out the wooden strips he'd hidden. The trick had worked because his cellmate had deliberately knocked over a box of nails to distract the guards, while he stuffed a towel inside the thermos to mask the sound. It was a narrow escape. With the wood in hand, he got to work immediately. He sanded and shaped each piece with intense focus, refusing to overlook even the tiniest flaw. Every rough edge was smoothed away with sandpaper. Before long, all the pieces of the key were ready. He glued them together carefully, then held the key under the heat lamp above his bed to speed up the drying. 2.5 minutes later, the wooden key was complete. He compared it with his sketches, filed it down again, and polished until it looked like the real thing. His heart raced as he walked up to the cell door. Slowly, he slid the key into the lock and held his breath as he gave it a twist. A sharp click echoed in the silence. The iron door actually swung open. He couldn't help but grin, but the joy didn't last. The door was thick and heavy, like a mountain blocking his way. Worse, the lock could only be opened from the outside. The realization crushed him. Still, he wasn't ready to quit. He resolved to try again. From then on, every time he got close to a guard, he memorized the shape of their keys. Back in his cell, he'd secretly carve another copy. A week later, the second key was finally finished. To test it, he waited until group labor, then had his cellmate keep watch while he slipped over to the gate. With the key in hand, he began testing the lock, and if it snagged or stuck, he was ready. Hidden in his sock was a set of makeshift tools.